Did you know that 5 major changes coming to the NHS Pension Scheme in 2026 are causing such concern that health trusts across the United Kingdom are scrambling to retain their experienced staff? If you're an NHS worker, a retiree, or someone planning your healthcare career, what I'm about to reveal in the next few minutes could fundamentally change your retirement plans and financial future. These aren't minor tweaks to the system. These are substantial reforms that have prompted emergency retention meetings, sparked heated debates in Parliament, and left thousands of NHS employees questioning whether they should stay in their roles or retire early before these changes take effect. Stay with me until the very end because I'll break down exactly what each change means for you, who will be most affected, and critically, what actions you need to take right now to protect your pension entitlements. Welcome back to UK State Pension with David. I'm David, and if this is your first time here, this channel is dedicated to helping you navigate the complex world of pensions, retirement planning, and state benefits here in the United Kingdom. Today we're diving deep into something that's causing absolute chaos in the NHS right now. The 5 pension scheme changes coming in 2026 that have hospital managers, GPs, nurses, consultants, and support staff all asking the same question: should I stay or should I go? Before we get into the details, I want you to understand just how serious this situation is. We're not talking about hypothetical changes that might happen someday. These reforms have been confirmed, dates have been set, and NHS trusts are already seeing a surge in retirement applications from staff who want to exit before these new rules come into force. So grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let me walk you through everything you need to know about these 5 critical changes and why they matter so much to you. Let's start with the first major change that's causing the most alarm among senior NHS staff, particularly consultants and experienced practitioners. The annual allowance for pension contributions is being significantly reformed in a way that will catch many high earners completely off guard. For years, senior NHS staff have enjoyed relatively generous tax relief on their pension contributions, but the 2026 changes are introducing a much stricter taper on the annual allowance for those earning above certain thresholds. What does this actually mean in practical terms? Well, if you're a consultant, a senior GP, or any NHS employee with a threshold income above £110,000, you're going to see your annual allowance for pension contributions tapered down much more aggressively than before. Some individuals could see their annual allowance drop from the standard £60,000 all the way down to £10,000 or even lower depending on their total income. The real sting here is that many NHS professionals don't even realize they're going to be affected until they receive their annual pension savings statement and discover they've incurred a massive tax charge. We're talking about potential tax bills of £20,000, £30,000, or even £50,000 for some individuals who've inadvertently exceeded their reduced annual allowance. This is why so many experienced consultants and senior practitioners are seriously considering retirement before April 2026. They're looking at their potential pension growth, calculating the tax implications, and concluding that it simply doesn't make financial sense to continue working under these new rules. The NHS is desperately trying to retain these individuals because losing them would create enormous gaps in specialist services, longer waiting lists, and increased pressure on remaining staff. The second major change revolves around the lifetime allowance, or rather, the way pension benefits are now being taxed following the abolition of the traditional lifetime allowance. While the government trumpeted the removal of the lifetime allowance as a positive change, what they introduced in its place has created a complex web of new charges and allowances that many people find even more confusing and potentially more punitive than the old system. From April 2026, there will be new lump sum allowances and lump sum and death benefit allowances that effectively cap how much you can take as tax-free cash and how much can be paid out tax-efficiently on your death. For many NHS workers who've built up substantial pension pots over decades of service, these new limits could mean significantly higher tax bills than they were expecting. The lump sum allowance, which caps your tax-free pension commencement lump sum, is set at a level that will catch out many senior NHS staff who were planning to take larger tax-free amounts to pay off mortgages, help children onto the property ladder, or fund their early retirement years. What makes this particularly frustrating for NHS workers is that they've been paying into these schemes for their entire careers based on one set of rules and promises, only to find the goalposts moved just as they're approaching retirement. The sense of broken promises is palpable in NHS staff rooms and medical lounges across the country. Many are asking themselves whether they can trust any government pension scheme going forward, and some are making the difficult decision to retire earlier than planned to crystallize their benefits under the current rules before things potentially get worse. The third change that's causing significant concern is the reform to how pension benefits are calculated for those in the legacy NHS pension schemes, particularly the 1995 and 2008 sections. Following the MacLeod remedy, which addressed age discrimination in public sector pensions, all members are now being moved into a single reformed scheme structure from April 2026. While this is meant to create fairness and consistency, the transition process is proving incredibly complex and is creating winners and losers depending on individual circumstances. Some NHS staff will find their pension benefits enhanced by this change, while others could see their expected retirement income reduced. The problem is that many people don't yet know which category they'll fall into because the calculations are extraordinarily complicated and depend on numerous factors including length of service, salary progression, career breaks, and part-time working patterns. NHS employers are required to provide members with a deferred choice decision, allowing them to choose which scheme provides better benefits for their remedy period, but many staff report feeling completely overwhelmed by the information they're receiving and unsure how to make the best decision. This uncertainty is leading some to simply opt for retirement before these changes fully kick in, preferring the devil they know to the devil they don't. The administrative burden on NHS pensions teams is also enormous, with many struggling to process the volume of queries and calculations required, leading to delays and frustration for members trying to make informed decisions about their futures. The fourth major change concerns contribution rates and the tiered system that determines how much NHS staff pay into their pensions. From April 2026, the contribution tiers are being adjusted in a way that will see many middle-income NHS workers paying more for their pension benefits. The government argues these changes are necessary to ensure the long-term sustainability of the NHS pension scheme. But for staff who are already struggling with the cost of living crisis, rising mortgage rates, and stagnant real terms pay, the prospect of seeing a bigger chunk taken out of their monthly salary is deeply unwelcome. A Band 6 nurse or an experienced paramedic could see their monthly take-home pay reduced by £50 to £100 or more, which might not sound like much to policymakers in Westminster, but represents a significant squeeze for families already stretched thin. What makes this particularly galling for many NHS workers is that they're being asked to pay more into their pensions at the same time as they're seeing the benefits potentially reduced by the other changes we've discussed. It feels like a double blow, and it's contributing to the retention crisis because some staff are calculating that they'd be better off opting out of the NHS pension scheme altogether and investing their money elsewhere. Losing members from the pension scheme weakens it further and creates a vicious cycle that could threaten the scheme's long-term viability. NHS managers are acutely aware of this risk, which is why they're frantically trying to communicate the continued value of the NHS pension scheme and offering financial education sessions to help staff understand the bigger picture. The fifth and final major change that's causing sleepless nights for NHS finance directors is the reform to early retirement reduction factors and late retirement enhancement factors. Essentially, the penalties for taking your pension before your normal pension age are being increased, while the bonuses for working beyond your normal pension age are being reduced. This matters enormously to NHS staff who might have been planning to retire at age 60 or 62 rather than waiting until their normal pension age of 67 or 68. Under the new calculations coming in 2026, retiring even just a couple of years early could result in a pension that's 10 to 15% lower than under current rules. For someone expecting a pension of £30,000 per year, that's a reduction of £3,000 to £4,500 annually, every year, for the rest of their life. It's a massive hit that could fundamentally change retirement plans and living standards. Conversely, those who were planning to work beyond their normal pension age, expecting to benefit from generous enhancement factors, are discovering that the rewards for staying in work longer are being significantly reduced. The incentive to remain in the workforce past your normal pension age is being diminished at exactly the time when the NHS desperately needs experienced staff to stay on. This seems counterintuitive to many observers who point out that the NHS is facing critical staff shortages and should be doing everything possible to encourage people to work longer, not making it less attractive. The government's response is that these changes bring the NHS pension scheme more in line with private sector schemes and ensure fairness across different age cohorts. But for individual NHS workers facing these changes, the policy rationale provides little comfort when they're seeing their expected retirement income reduced. So why exactly are NHS trusts so urgently focused on staff retention right now? The answer lies in the perfect storm these 5 changes are creating. Across the country, HR departments are reporting unprecedented numbers of experienced staff inquiring about their retirement options, requesting pension forecasts, and booking appointments with financial advisors. Many are seriously considering whether to retire before April 2026 to avoid some or all of these changes. If even a small percentage of these individuals actually proceed with early retirement, the impact on NHS services could be catastrophic. We're talking about consultants with decades of specialist knowledge, senior nurses who mentor junior staff and hold teams together, experienced GPs who manage complex patient caseloads, and skilled technicians and allied health professionals whose expertise cannot be easily replaced. The NHS is already struggling with vacancies, waiting lists at record levels, and staff burnout at crisis point. Losing another wave of experienced practitioners could push some services over the edge. This is why health trusts are pulling out all the stops to retain staff, offering flexible working arrangements, additional leave, enhanced roles, and in some cases even negotiating special arrangements around pension accrual to make staying in post more attractive. What should you be doing right now if you're an NHS employee affected by these changes? First and foremost, request an up-to-date pension forecast from NHS Pensions. Don't rely on old statements or rough estimates. You need accurate figures based on your current circumstances and the new rules coming into effect in 2026. Second, consider booking an appointment with an independent financial advisor who specializes in NHS pensions. Yes, this will cost money, but the potential savings and better decision-making could easily pay for itself many times over. Third, attend any pension workshops or information sessions your NHS trust is offering. Many trusts are bringing in pension specialists to help staff understand these changes and make informed decisions. Fourth, think carefully about your career timeline and retirement goals. If you are planning to retire in the next few years anyway, it might make sense to accelerate your plans before April 2026. Conversely, if you're early or mid-career, you might need to adjust your long-term financial planning to account for these new realities. Fifth, don't make any hasty decisions based on panic or incomplete information. These are complex changes with different impacts depending on individual circumstances. What's right for your colleague might be completely wrong for you. It's also worth understanding that these changes don't exist in isolation. They're part of a broader pattern of pension reform across both public and private sectors in the UK, as the government grapples with an aging population, longer life expectancies, and the enormous costs of providing decent retirement incomes. The state pension age continues to rise, workplace pension contributions are increasing, and pension freedoms introduced in 2015 have created both opportunities and risks for retirees. The NHS Pension Scheme, despite these changes, remains one of the most valuable employment benefits available in the UK today. It's a defined benefit scheme, meaning your retirement income is based on your salary and service rather than investment performance. In an era where most private sector workers have defined contribution pensions with uncertain outcomes, this guarantee of income is enormously valuable. Even with these 2026 changes, the NHS pension scheme will continue to provide inflation-protected pensions, spouse and dependent benefits, and ill health retirement protections that simply aren't available in most private sector arrangements. This is the message NHS employers are desperately trying to get across to staff considering their options. Yes, these changes are unwelcome and will reduce benefits for some individuals, but walking away from the NHS pension scheme entirely could be a decision you deeply regret in retirement. Looking ahead, there's also the question of whether more changes might be coming beyond 2026. Some pension experts warn that public sector pensions could face further reforms in future years as governments continue to grapple with the costs of an aging society. Others argue that the political backlash from these changes might actually protect NHS pensions for a while, as politicians become wary of further antagonizing healthcare workers who've been hailed as heroes. The truth is, nobody knows for certain what the next decade holds for NHS pensions, which is part of what makes planning so challenging. What we do know is that the 5 changes coming in 2026 are definite, significant, and will affect hundreds of thousands of NHS workers across England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. The time to prepare is now, not in March 2026 when the changes are about to take effect and your options are limited. One aspect that's often overlooked in discussions about these pension changes is the impact on recruitment as well as retention. Young people considering healthcare careers are increasingly savvy about pensions and long-term financial planning. If the NHS pension scheme becomes less attractive compared to other career options, it could make recruiting the next generation of doctors, nurses, and healthcare professionals more difficult. This creates long-term sustainability questions for the NHS that extend far beyond the immediate retention crisis. Some NHS trusts are already reporting that newly qualified staff are asking detailed questions about pension provisions during job interviews, something that was much less common a decade ago. The reputational damage to the NHS pension scheme from these changes could linger for years and affect workforce planning in ways that aren't immediately obvious. There's also a regional dimension to consider. Some parts of the UK are already struggling more than others with NHS staff retention and recruitment. Rural areas, economically disadvantaged regions, and specialties that are chronically understaffed could be hit particularly hard if pension changes trigger a wave of retirements. The risk is that healthcare inequalities, already a serious concern, could be exacerbated if the most experienced staff in the most challenged areas decide these pension changes are the final straw. NHS England, NHS Wales, NHS Scotland, and the Northern Ireland Health Service are all monitoring the situation closely and trying to develop targeted retention strategies, but the reality is that national pension rules don't easily lend themselves to local flexibility. So there you have it, the 5 major NHS pension scheme changes coming in 2026 and why they're causing such urgent concern about staff retention across the health service. From annual allowance tapers affecting high earners, to new lump sum allowances replacing the lifetime allowance, from the complexity of the McLeod remedy to increased contribution rates and reformed early retirement factors, these changes represent the most significant shakeup of NHS pensions in a generation. Whether you're a healthcare worker directly affected, a manager trying to retain your team, or simply someone who relies on the NHS and cares about its future, these changes matter enormously. The decisions made by thousands of individual NHS staff members over the coming months in response to these pension reforms will shape the health service for years to come. Thank you so much for watching today's video here on UK State Pension with David. I hope this deep dive into the NHS pension scheme changes has given you a clear understanding of what's happening, why it matters, and what you should be doing about it. These are complicated issues, and I've tried to break them down in a way that makes sense without oversimplifying the real challenges people are facing. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, as it really helps the channel reach more people who need this information. Subscribe to UK State Pension with David if you haven't already, And make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss future videos where I'll continue covering pension reforms, retirement planning, and state benefits here in the United Kingdom. Drop a comment below letting me know if you're affected by these NHS pension changes, whether you work in healthcare yourself, or if you have questions about how these reforms might impact you or your family. I read every comment and try to respond to as many as possible. Share this video with any NHS colleagues, friends, or family members who need to know about these changes because knowledge really is power when it comes to protecting your financial future. Take care of yourselves, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue exploring the ever-changing world of UK pensions and retirement. Until then, this is David signing off from UK State Pension with David.